The sound cuts through the night like broken glass. A woman's voice, high and trembling, echoes off brick walls. "Please, somebody help me." The alley is dark. Streetlights flicker at the entrance, casting long shadows that stretch and bend. A figure stands at the corner, broad shoulders silhouetted against the dim glow. He stops. His head turns slightly. He listens. The woman cries out again, "Please!" The figure moves toward the sound. His steps are deliberate, controlled. This is the moment everything changes. Let me take you back 3 hours. The city is winding down, traffic thins. Shops close their metal shutters. People hurry home, eyes down, hands gripping their bags a little tighter than they used to. This neighborhood used to be quiet, safe, but things have changed in recent months. There have been thefts, break-ins. People talk about it in hushed voices at the grocery store, at the bus stop, in their living rooms. The police say they are doing what they can, but resources are stretched. Patrols are less frequent, response times are longer. The people who live here feel it. They feel the shift, the unease, the fear that comes with wondering if tonight will be the night something happens to them. In a small apartment 6 blocks from the main street, an old woman named Margaret is getting ready for bed. She is 73 years old. She has lived in this neighborhood for 42 years. She raised her children here, buried her husband here. She knows every corner, every shop owner, every crack in the sidewalk. Her apartment is on the 2nd floor of a building with faded yellow paint and a door that sticks in the summer. The walls are covered with photos, her grandchildren, her late husband in his uniform, a picture of her and her sister at the beach decades ago, both of them laughing. Margaret moves slowly now. Her knees ache. Her hands are not as steady as they once were. But her mind is sharp. She remembers everything, every face, every kindness, every disappointment. Tonight she realizes she is out of milk. She needs it for her tea in the morning. It is a small thing, but routines matter to her. They give structure to her days. She hesitates. It is late, nearly 9 o'clock. The store is only 3 blocks away, but those 3 blocks feel longer now than they used to. She looks out the window. The street is quiet. A few cars pass. She thinks about waiting until morning, but morning feels far away and she knows she will not sleep well if she breaks her routine. She puts on her coat, a brown wool coat with buttons that are coming loose. She picks up her purse, checks that her keys are inside and locks the door behind her. The street is cooler than she expected. A breeze comes from the east, carrying the smell of rain. Margaret walks slowly, her purse tucked under her arm. She passes familiar buildings. The bakery that opens at 6, the barber shop with the striped pole, the empty lot where kids used to play baseball. She reaches the store. The lights inside are bright and harsh. The clerk nods at her. She nods back. She buys the milk, a small carton, and a pack of biscuits. She pays in cash. The clerk hands her the change without a word. She puts it in her purse and heads back outside. The walk home feels different. The wind has picked up. The street is emptier. A car passes, its headlights sweeping across her face. She blinks. She walks a little faster, but her knees protest. She reaches the corner where she usually turns onto her street, but tonight she notices 2 men standing near the alley. They are young, early 20s maybe. One is tall and thin, wearing a dark hoodie. The other is shorter, stocky, in a jacket with the collar turned up. They are talking, their voices low. Margaret does not want to walk past them, but there is no other way to her building. She takes a breath and keeps walking, her eyes on the sidewalk. As she passes, the tall one turns. "Hey," he says. His voice is casual, but there is something in it that makes her stomach tighten. She does not respond. She keeps walking. "Hey, lady, I'm talking to you." She hears footsteps behind her. Her heart starts to race. She walks faster, but they are faster. They step in front of her, blocking her path. "Where are you going so fast?" the shorter one says. He is smiling, but it is not a friendly smile. Margaret clutches her purse tighter. "Please, I just want to go home," she says. Her voice is small, shaky. "Yeah, we know," the tall one says. "But we're having a rough night, you understand? We could use a little help." He gestures to her purse. Margaret's hands start to tremble. "I don't have much," she says. "Just let me go." The shorter one steps closer. "Come on, don't make this difficult." Margaret looks around. The street is empty. No cars, no people. She feels the cold brick wall behind her. She realizes they have backed her into the alley. Panic rises in her chest. "Please," she says again, louder this time. "Somebody help me." Her voice cracks. The tall one laughs. "Nobody's coming, lady." But Margaret calls out again, desperate now. "Please, help me." The sound carries. It bounces off the buildings. It reaches the ears of a man standing 2 blocks away. His name is Daniel. He is 34 years old. He spent 12 years in the military, special operations. He has seen things most people cannot imagine. He has been in places where the rules are different, where survival depends on split-second decisions and absolute discipline. He left the service 2 years ago, not because he wanted to, but because his body had limits, even if his mind did not. A helicopter crash in a country whose name he cannot say, 3 broken ribs, a shattered collarbone, months of physical therapy. He was offered a desk job, he declined. He came back to the city where he grew up. He got a small apartment. He works security at a warehouse. It is quiet work, simple. It gives him time to think, which is both a blessing and a curse. Daniel does not talk much about his past. When people ask what he did before, he says he was in the army. If they press, he changes the subject. He is not ashamed. He is just tired of the questions, tired of the assumptions. People think they understand what war is because they saw a movie. They do not understand, they cannot, and he does not blame them. He just prefers the quiet now, the routine, the predictability. Tonight, he is walking home from his shift. He takes the same route every night. Down 4th Street, past the old theatre, through the park, then onto his block. He likes the walk. It clears his head, gives him time to decompress. He is halfway through the park when he hears it. A woman's voice, faint but clear. "Please, somebody help me." Daniel stops. His training kicks in before his conscious mind even registers it. He turns his head, locating the direction of the sound. East. 2 blocks, maybe 3. He hears it again. "Please." There is fear in that voice. Real fear. Daniel does not hesitate. He moves. He does not run. Running draws attention. He walks fast, his stride long and purposeful. He cuts through the park, exits onto Maple Street, and heads toward the sound. His senses sharpen. He scans the street. Empty. He listens. Voices. Male. 2, maybe 3. He reaches the corner and sees the alley. 2 men. 1 woman. She is backed against the wall. Daniel assesses the situation in seconds. The men are focused on her. They have not seen him. He has the advantage. He moves into the alley, his footsteps silent. He stops 10 feet behind them. "Step away from her," he says. His voice is calm, even, but it carries authority. The kind of authority that comes from years of giving orders in life or death situations. The 2 men turn. The tall one looks annoyed. The shorter one looks confused. "Who the hell are you?" the tall one says. Daniel does not answer the question. "Step away from her," he repeats, "now." The shorter one laughs nervously. "Man, this doesn't concern you. Just keep walking." Daniel does not move. He stands with his feet shoulder-width apart, his hands loose at his sides. He is not aggressive. He is not threatening. But there is something about him. The way he stands, the way he looks at them. It makes the shorter one take a step back. The tall one notices. "Come on, man. We're just talking to her," he says, trying to sound casual. "No, you're not," Daniel says. "You're scaring her. And now you're leaving." The tall one's jaw tightens. He looks at Daniel, then at the woman, then back at Daniel. He is trying to decide if this is worth it. Daniel waits. He does not blink. He does not look away. He has stared down men with guns. These 2 do not scare him. The tall one sees it. He sees that Daniel is not going to back down. He sees that this is not a fight he wants. "Whatever, man," he says. "She's not worth it anyway." He jerks his head at the shorter one. "Let's go." The shorter one hesitates, then follows. They walk past Daniel, giving him a wide berth. Daniel watches them until they reach the street and disappear around the corner. Only then does he turn to the woman. Margaret is shaking. Her back is still against the wall, her purse clutched to her chest. Daniel takes a step toward her, then stops. He does not want to scare her more. "Are you okay?" he asks. His voice is gentler now. Margaret nods, but tears are streaming down her face. "They were going to take my purse," she says. Her voice is barely a whisper. "I know," Daniel says, "but they're gone now. You're safe." Margaret looks at him, really looks at him. She sees a man in his 30s, tall, with short dark hair and a scar on his left cheek. His eyes are steady, calm. "Thank you," she says. "Thank you so much." Daniel shakes his head. You don't have to thank me. Are you hurt? Margaret shakes her head. No, just scared. Daniel nods. That's normal. Can I walk you home? Margaret hesitates. She does not know this man, but she looks into his eyes and sees something she trusts. Yes, she says. Please. Daniel picks up the small bag she dropped. Inside is the milk and the biscuits. He hands it to her. Lead the way, he says. They walk together, slowly, at her pace. Margaret's hands are still shaking. I've lived here for 42 years, she says. I never thought I'd be afraid to walk to the store. Daniel listens. Things have changed, he says. But that doesn't mean you should have to be afraid. Margaret looks at him. You're very kind, she says. Daniel does not know how to respond to that. He does not think of himself as kind. He just did what needed to be done. They reach her building. Margaret stops at the door. This is me, she says. She looks up at him. I don't even know your name. Daniel, he says. Daniel, she repeats. I'm Margaret. She extends her hand. He takes it gently. Her hand is small and frail in his. Thank you, Daniel. You saved me tonight. Daniel feels uncomfortable with the word. Saved. It feels too big. I just helped, he says. Anyone would have done the same. Margaret shakes her head. No, she says. Not anyone. Most people would have walked away, pretended they didn't hear. But you didn't. You came. Her eyes fill with tears again. You made me feel like I mattered. Daniel does not know what to say to that. He has spent years in situations where his actions determined whether people lived or died. He has carried wounded men through enemy fire. He has made impossible choices. But this simple act of helping an old woman, it feels different, it feels personal. You do matter, he says finally. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't. Margaret smiles. It is a small, tired smile, but it is real. Get some rest, Daniel says, and maybe ask a friend to go with you next time you need to go out at night. Margaret nods. I will. She unlocks the door and steps inside. Before she closes it, she turns back. God bless you, Daniel. He nods. The door closes. He stands there for a moment, then turns and walks away. As he walks home, Daniel thinks about what just happened. He thinks about the fear in Margaret's voice, the way those men looked at her, like she was nothing, like she did not matter. He thinks about all the people in this city who feel that way, invisible, vulnerable, forgotten. He thinks about the 12 years he spent fighting for people he never met, in countries he could barely pronounce. And he wonders if maybe the fight is not over. Maybe it just looks different now. Maybe it is not about uniforms and orders and missions. Maybe it is about moments like this. Small moments, quiet moments, moments when someone decides to step forward instead of walking away. Daniel reaches his apartment. He unlocks the door and steps inside. The place is small, sparse. A couch, a table, a bed in the corner. No pictures on the walls, no personal touches. It is a place to sleep, nothing more. He takes off his jacket and sits on the couch. He thinks about Margaret's words. You made me feel like I mattered. He leans back and closes his eyes. For the first time in a long time, he feels like maybe what he did tonight mattered too. The next morning, Margaret wakes up early. She makes her tea with the milk she bought. She sits at her kitchen table and looks out the window. The sun is rising. The street is quiet. She thinks about last night, about Daniel, about how close she came to losing everything. Her purse, her sense of safety, maybe more. She finishes her tea and gets dressed. She has somewhere to go. Margaret walks to the community center 3 blocks away. It is a small building with a room that holds about 50 people. Every Thursday morning, a group of neighbors meets here. They talk about the neighborhood, share concerns, organize events. Margaret has been coming to these meetings for years. Today, there are about 30 people. Margaret takes a seat near the front. The meeting starts. People talk about the usual things, the broken streetlight on 5th, the need for a new crosswalk. Then the topic shifts, crime. Someone mentions the recent thefts. Others chime in. Everyone has a story. Everyone feels the same unease. Margaret raises her hand. The moderator nods at her. Margaret, go ahead. Margaret stands. Her voice is stronger than it was last night. I want to tell you what happened to me, she says. The room goes quiet. She tells them everything, the walk to the store, the 2 men, the alley, the fear, and then she tells them about Daniel, about how he appeared, about how he stood between her and danger, about how he walked her home. When she finishes, the room is silent. Then someone starts clapping. Others join. Margaret sits down, her face flushed. A woman in the back stands. "We need more people like that," she says. "People who are willing to help." Others nod. A man near the front speaks up. "Maybe we need to start looking out for each other more, instead of waiting for someone else to do it." The conversation shifts. People start talking about organizing neighborhood watch groups, about walking together at night, about checking in on elderly neighbors, about being present, being aware. Margaret listens. She feels something she has not felt in months. Hope. Not because one man helped her, but because that one act inspired others to think differently, to act differently. Over the next few weeks, things begin to change in the neighborhood. Not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly. People pay more attention. They look out for each other. They walk together. They report suspicious activity. The police notice. They increase patrols. The thefts decrease. The fear lessens. And it all started with one man who heard a cry for help and decided to step forward. Daniel does not know about any of this. He continues his routine. Work. Walk home. Sleep. Repeat. But one evening, about 3 weeks after the incident, he is walking through the park when he sees Margaret. She is sitting on a bench with another older woman. They are talking and laughing. Margaret sees him. Her face lights up. "Daniel!" she calls. He stops. She stands and walks over to him, her friend following. "I've been hoping to see you," Margaret says. "I wanted to introduce you to my friend Helen. Helen, this is Daniel, the man I told you about." Helen smiles. "It's an honor to meet you," she says. Daniel feels awkward. "Nice to meet you too," he says. Margaret looks at him with such warmth that he almost has to look away. "I told everyone what you did," she says, "at the community meeting. And it started something, Daniel. People are helping each other now, looking out for each other. You started that." Daniel shakes his head. "I just helped you. That's all." Margaret reaches out and touches his arm. "No," she says. "You did more than that. You reminded us that we're not alone, that someone cares. That matters more than you know." Daniel does not know what to say. He has been trained to complete missions, to achieve objectives. But this ripple effect, he never expected it. "I'm glad things are better," he says finally. Margaret smiles. "They are, because of you." She squeezes his arm gently. "Thank you, Daniel, for everything." Helen nods in agreement. Daniel nods back, then continues on his walk. As he moves through the park, he thinks about what Margaret said, about starting something, about mattering. He thinks about the years he spent in uniform, the missions, the objectives, the sacrifices, and he thinks about that one moment in a dark alley, one moment that changed everything for one woman, and then for a neighborhood. That night, Daniel lies in bed and stares at the ceiling. He thinks about purpose, about what it means to make a difference. For years, his purpose was clear. Defend, protect, serve. But when he left the military, that purpose felt lost. He felt lost. But maybe he was wrong. Maybe purpose is not always about grand missions and global threats. Maybe sometimes it is about hearing a cry for help and choosing to answer it. Maybe it is about being present in the moment when someone needs you. Maybe it is about small acts that create big ripples. Daniel closes his eyes. For the first time in 2 years, he feels something close to peace. Not because he did something extraordinary, but because he did something necessary. He stepped forward when he could have walked away. He chose to care when it would have been easier not to. And that choice mattered. It mattered to Margaret. It mattered to the neighborhood. And maybe, just maybe, it mattered to him too. The weeks turn into months. The neighborhood continues to improve. People feel safer, stronger, more connected. Margaret continues to attend the community meetings. She tells Daniel's story whenever someone new joins. She never uses his last name. She respects his privacy. But she makes sure people know that one act of courage can change everything. That one person can make a difference. Daniel continues his routine, but now when he walks home at night, he pays more attention. He listens. He watches. Not because he is looking for trouble, but because he understands now that being present matters, that being willing to act matters. He does not go looking for situations like the one with Margaret, but if he hears someone in distress, he will not walk away. He cannot. It is not in him to do that. It never was. One evening, about 6 months after the incident, Daniel is walking home when he passes the alley where it all happened. He stops. He looks down the dark passage. He remembers Margaret's face, her fear, her gratitude. He remembers the choice he made, to step forward, to act. He takes a breath and continues walking. He does not need to stand there and reflect. He knows what happened, he knows what it meant, and he carries that with him every day. As Daniel walks, he thinks about all the people in the city, all the Margarets, all the vulnerable, all the forgotten. He thinks about the ones who cry out and are not heard, the ones who are alone and afraid. He cannot save them all. He knows that, but he can save one. And if he can save one, maybe someone else can save another. And maybe if enough people make that choice, things can change. Not everywhere, not all at once, but somewhere. For someone. And that has to be enough. Daniel reaches his apartment. He climbs the stairs and unlocks the door. Inside, everything is the same. The sparse furniture, the empty walls. But something is different. He is different. He has found a new purpose. Not the one he had before. Not the grand missions and global stakes. But something quieter. Something closer. The purpose of being there when someone needs help. The purpose of choosing courage over convenience. The purpose of mattering in the small moments that make up a life. He sits on his couch and looks out the window. The city stretches out before him. Millions of people. Millions of stories. Millions of moments where someone has to choose. Walk away or step forward. Ignore or act. He does not know what tomorrow will bring. He does not know if he will ever be in a situation like that again. But if he is, he knows what he will do. He will step forward, because that is who he is. That is who he has always been, and that will never change. In her apartment, 6 blocks away, Margaret is getting ready for bed. She makes her tea. She sits at her kitchen table. She looks at the photo of her late husband. "I met someone like you," she tells the photo. "Someone who stands up. Someone who cares." She sips her tea. She thinks about Daniel, about how one moment changed her life, about how she no longer feels invisible. She feels seen, protected, valued. She finishes her tea and goes to bed. She sleeps peacefully. No fear, no anxiety, just peace. And somewhere in the city, someone else is walking home. They pass a dark alley. They hear a sound, a voice, a cry for help. They stop. They look. They have a choice. Walk away or step forward. Ignore or act. And in that moment, they remember a story they heard about an old woman and a man who chose courage. And they make their choice. They step forward. Because sometimes a hero is not someone with a cape or a mask. Sometimes a hero is not someone with special powers or extraordinary abilities. Sometimes a hero is just someone who hears a cry for help and decides to answer it. Someone who sees a person in need and chooses to act. Someone who understands that every life matters, every person matters, and that the smallest act of courage can create the biggest ripples. This is not a story about violence. It is not a story about revenge. It is a story about humanity, about connection, about the choice we all have every single day to be present or to be absent, to care or to ignore, to step forward or to walk away. Daniel made his choice. Margaret was saved because of it. A neighborhood was changed because of it. And now the question is yours. What choice will you make? When you hear the cry for help, will you answer? When you see someone in need, will you act? The world is full of Margarets, people who need someone to stand up for them, people who need someone to care. And the world is full of Daniels, people who have the courage to step forward. The question is, which one will you be? The answer to that question matters. It matters more than you know, because sometimes one act of courage is all it takes to change everything. But to understand how Daniel reached that moment, to understand why he acted the way he did, you have to know that his story did not begin with a heroic impulse. It began with an ordinary life, as most real stories of courage do. Daniel wasn't born brave. He wasn't raised to be bold or outspoken. He didn't grow up imagining himself as someone who would one day run toward danger. He was quiet, observant, the kind of person who blended into the background, not because he lacked personality, but because he had learned early that listening was easier than speaking. His father used to say that the world rewarded those who moved fast, spoke loud, and pushed forward without hesitation. "If you slow down, the world will run right over you," he said. Daniel believed him for a while. He tried to keep up, tried to push forward, tried to ignore the things that tugged at his attention, small pains, small needs, small voices, but deep inside, he couldn't ignore them for long. It was his grandmother, Helen, who taught him that listening was not weakness. She told him that noticing the small things was its own kind of strength. She was the type of woman whose presence softened a room, who never let a stray cat go hungry, who always had time to sit with someone who needed company. Kindness doesn't make you fragile, she told him once. It makes you powerful in a way people don't always understand. And Daniel believed her. He watched her navigate life with quiet resilience, helping people without expecting anything back, offering comfort even when she herself was tired. From her he learned that compassion didn't shout, it whispered, it nudged, it guided. As he grew older, life tried to blunt that softness. School, work, stress, expectation, they all tugged him in the opposite direction. He became busy, preoccupied. He carried responsibilities that left little room for reflection. Yet every now and then, that sensitivity resurfaced in small ways, almost like muscle memory. Once he saw a woman crying alone on a park bench. He hesitated, unsure if he would be intruding, unsure if she wanted company. Many people walked past her without even a glance. Daniel almost did the same. But the almost is important, because he didn't. He stopped, sat at the far end of the bench and asked quietly, "Are you okay?" She didn't tell him everything, but she told him enough. Enough to feel seen, enough to steady herself. When he walked away, he didn't feel proud. He felt human. Those moments shaped the kind of person Daniel was long before the day he heard Margaret's cry. Not dramatic moments, not cinematic moments, but the small ones that build a person from the inside out. He didn't know it then, but every small choice prepared him for the moment that truly mattered. The evening he heard her was ordinary in every way. The sky was grey, the air heavy with the promise of rain. He walked home from work with his mind full of half-finished thoughts, tasks for tomorrow, messages he needed to answer, a grocery list he hadn't written yet. Life felt mechanical, routine, predictable, and then he heard it. A strained, shaky cry, so faint he almost mistook it for the wind. But something in the tone, a crack, a desperation, made him stop, made him listen, made him turn his head. "Help," the voice said again. People always imagine that the heroic moment comes with a surge of adrenaline, a sudden shift where everything slows down and the world turns into sharp focus. But for Daniel, it wasn't like that. It was confusing, disorienting. He looked around, unsure if he had imagined it, and then he heard it a third time. That was enough. He didn't think about danger. He didn't think about whether he might regret it. He didn't think at all. He ran. He found Margaret on the ground, her hands trembling, her breath unsteady. She was frightened, hurt, disoriented. She wasn't young, and the world had not always been gentle with her. He knelt beside her and spoke in the calmest voice he could manage. "I'm here. You're safe. Let me help you." Those words mattered more than he realized. For someone like Margaret, who had felt invisible for years, being seen in a moment of vulnerability was a gift greater than any dramatic rescue. He called for help. He stayed with her. He held her hand when she asked him to. And when emergency services arrived, he didn't leave. He followed her to the hospital. He waited. He made sure she had someone who cared enough to stay. The neighborhood learned what had happened, and something unusual followed. Not gossip, not drama, but reflection. People who had lived side by side for years suddenly realized they barely knew one another. They realized how many Margarets lived quietly among them, people who struggled alone, who hesitated to ask for help, who hoped for kindness, but rarely received it. Daniel's action didn't just save one woman, it awakened a slumbering sense of community. Neighbors who had once nodded stiffly at one another now talked. They checked in. They shared small responsibilities. A few helped Margaret with errands. Others organized weekly visits to older residents. Local kids started knocking on doors to offer help with technology or heavy groceries. And slowly, bit by bit, the neighborhood transformed. Margaret and Daniel formed a friendship built not on dramatic events but on simple companionship. She told him stories about her youth, stories of dances, of difficult winters, of friendships she had outlived. He told her about his work, his worries, his hopes, the small insecurities he never said aloud to anyone else. She became like a second grandmother to him. He became, in her words, proof that the world still has good people in it. But life is not endless. Margaret aged. Her steps grew smaller, her breaths thinner. Yet every year, on the anniversary of the day Daniel found her, she would bake something, no matter how tired she was, and bring it to him. "Because you listened," she always said. "Because you didn't walk away." In her final year, when she struggled to move without assistance, she asked Daniel to visit her one snowy afternoon. The world outside was silent beneath a blanket of white, and her room smelled faintly of lavender. She took his hand, her skin fragile as paper, and said, "Promise me something." He leaned closer. "Promise that you won't let the world harden you. Promise that you'll keep choosing to care, even when it's inconvenient, even when it scares you, even when you feel alone in it." He promised, and she smiled, not because she doubted him, but because she knew he would keep his word. When she passed away that spring, the neighborhood mourned as if they had lost someone who belonged to all of them, and in a way they had. But Daniel carried her promise, and promises, when made with sincerity, tend to echo. He continued helping people, not in grand, dramatic ways, but in quiet ones. He remembered birthdays. He delivered groceries to those who couldn't leave home. He volunteered at the community center. He listened, truly listened, to those who needed to be heard. And in doing so, he lit sparks of compassion in people who had forgotten they were capable of it. The story spread not as a legend but as a reminder, because stories like this don't exist to glorify one person, they exist to awaken something in everyone else. Daniel himself never sought recognition. When someone thanked him, he always said the same thing: anyone could have done it. But the truth is, not everyone does. And that's the difference. That's what matters. Which brings this story back to you, because in the end, this is not about Daniel. It's not about Margaret. It's about the choices that shape a life, not in the loud moments but in the quiet ones. It's about the instinct to look away and the decision to look closer instead. It's about the courage it takes to care in a world that often rewards indifference. It's about the simple, undeniable truth that every act of kindness, no matter how small, carries the potential to change someone's life. You will hear your own cry for help someday. It may not sound like a cry, it may be a sigh, a pause, a trembling voice, a lonely expression, a hesitation in someone's step. You will see someone who needs you, not someone extraordinary, not someone famous, but someone human. And you will face the same question Daniel faced, the question that defines more than just a moment. Will you act? Will you step forward? Will you be present when it would be easier to walk away? Because somewhere out there is another Margaret. Somewhere out there is someone who needs exactly the kind of compassion you are capable of giving. And somewhere out there is another Daniel, a person who has the softness, the attentiveness, the quiet courage that can change everything. You may already be that person. You may not realize it yet, but the truth remains. The world is shaped by those who answer the call. And one day, the call will come. When it does, what kind of person will you choose to be? Because sometimes, one small act of courage is all it takes to change everything.